got an incredible woman coming up, and she is our celebrity featured speaker today. And, okay, I know she's in music. Okay, we didn't, she actually was recommended to me by a gorgeous, beautiful woman who is, again, one of our speakers, Diane. She's like, Deb, I know that you just have to talk to Kathy. And I want to show her book because I've been reading it. And I have to give you, thank you for making the lettering a little bigger. I read a lot of books. Oh my gosh, I read so many books. And I was like, this is so much easier to read. Yes, I know. Okay, there's my little bookmark. But so I want to talk about, we are bringing to the stage Kathy Bushnell. And this is her book, right? M and Moo, Legacies of a 60s Female Rock Duo. And Kathy Bushnell, we are going to be talking about how she broke open the music industry as a woman in the 1960s as a rock and roll trailblazer. And thank you. I have a signed copy, and I know that someone is actually going to win a signed copy as well. So let's give you a couple of things about Kathy you may not know. And she's got the most incredible stories. I mean, just mention anybody. Like, she's like, yeah, when my movie gets done, I'm going to talk to Keith, and I'm like, and Mick, and I'm thinking, well, she's got to be talking about Keith Richards. She's like, yeah, they'll walk me down the red carpet. And I'm like, I'm coming. I'm coming. So you want to hang out with this woman. So very cool. So it's interesting to ask Kathy, what was one of her favorite albums. And for those of you remember, Jefferson Airplane, and the album was Surrealistic Pillow. Surrealistic Pillow. Okay, so Jefferson Airplane. And if you don't know who that is, Google it. Kathy studied ballet at Joffrey's in New York City. And a special treat for Kathy is a Dairy Queen hot fudge sundae. So there you go. She's real, just like we are, DQ, double dip, what have you. So Kathy, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. I'm so excited to hear about what it is that you're going to share with us.
Well, Deb, it's an honor, truly an honor, and Angel as well. I'm excited to be here, and I just want to share my story, which I feel is very inspiring, and actually not just to wannabe rock and roll individuals, but really to people of all ages. And what's interesting to me is getting feedback from people in various walks of life, that people from age 15, mostly beginning 18 to 92. I just had a woman at a book signing that I did, and she's 92. And it just warmed my heart, because she said that she was a classical pianist her whole life, but she loved the music of the late 60s and 70s and drove there to the book signing to get a copy, and she wanted me to sign it. So that was just such a beautiful moment that we shared together.
Absolutely. Well, I know that me and Angel have got some questions that poised, but please, feel free to go off in those creative directions. And you're known as the first woman duo to open the rock and roll scene up in the UK. That's quite a statement. And I guess one of the questions that we'd all like to know is, it's one thing to listen to music, and then it's another thing when it grabs your soul. Do you know what I mean? It's like when something really hits. So what was that like for you? When did you know that music was going to get you on planes, trains, and automobiles?
Okay. Well, we were the first female rock duo in Great Britain, which was a real feat and an honor as well. In answer to your question, Deb, I always loved music, and my family was very into music as well. So, but actually, when I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, along with millions of other teenagers in February of '64, I really was mesmerized by their harmonies and their energy. And they were something so new on the scene. It was exciting, really exciting. And that was the moment, one of the moments, but one of the major moments that I knew music was really a part of my soul, and also that I wanted to be in the rock music scene as a rock musician. So,
wow,
he inspired me.
The Beatles.
first rock women duo in Britain. I mean, like, how did that happen? Like, what opened up that door? How did they, like, how were you received as the first rock women duo, or first, duo? I mean, that's such a that's huge to be the first.
Yes, and it wasn't an easy feat either. I co-founded it with another gutsy American young woman. So one of the questions that I get is, wait a minute, you're both American. How did you get to Britain to form this female rock duo? So just briefly, we were on as they say, on holiday in Britain or on vacation, and we met a couple of musicians who invited us. We went to Britain, and they invited us to stay at their flat, and we made lots of friends there, and we fell in love with London. And so on the tarmac on the plane going home, we both decided, we made a gutsy decision to move back 3,000 miles away from our families in New York. We were going to go and relocate to Britain, to London, and in like the following spring. And we actually chose a day, and we went back on that day. So
Wow.
Our parents weren't too happy about it, but we were so determined, and we had just fallen in love. In 1967, the summer before, in London, it was just the music explosion, sort of, and fashion and art were really in vogue, that sort of thing. So it was just exciting.
Oh my gosh, right? Like, as a young girl to meet up with people and make that decision and decide to move, and far away. Like, we have people that, ever never even leave their home state, and you left the country, and that opportunity was then still available to you, even though it was a year later, right?
Well, it was 6 months later that we moved back, and then we hooked up. We got in contact with our friend guitarist Martin Stone, who had invited us to stay the previous summer, and we had made a lot of friends. And so he had moved to a different place, a hip place in Chelsea, and he helped us get a bed-sit basement accommodation that we rented. Bed-sit is the same as a studio apartment in New York. And but it had an outhouse and no real kitchen facilities. So it was pretty, we were really, living sort of meagerly, but it was so exciting to be there. And then there was a rock band that was very popular named Family. And they were living in a communal house in between Martin's house and where we were living. And our landlord was a musician as well, in a blues band, Victor Brox. So it was music all around us. And then, so we moved in. And I want to just say one thing first, quickly. A lot of people think that we moved from America to Britain to form a female rock duo, but we didn't. What happened was that we were chatting one day, and I had been using her guitar to write songs, because I had been writing songs from an early age. And but she said, well, so have I. So I had a lyric sheet there, and she looked at it, sat down, and started belting out the lyrics. And I said, why don't you sing lead and I'll do the harmonies? And that was the magic moment, Deb, that our female rock duo was born. And then so after a while, we had quite a few songs, and this musician who was out of work at the time, Tony Kay, he had an audition, and he moved next door, in the bed sit in the basement next to us. And he said he had an audition to go to, but he wanted to let us know that he had heard us writing songs and kind of rehearsing. And he said he thought we sounded very professional. And that touched our hearts. And he said, have you thought of forming a rock duo, girls? And we said, well, yeah. He said, well, I think you should, and walked out to his audition. And it was actually, he got hired, and the group he got hired by was just forming, and it's the group Yes. So he was Yes's Yes, Jackie, it was yes. And he was their first keyboard player. So that's the kind of life I was leading there, knowing people. And so this band that was living in between, named Family, was very popular. And they heard through the grapevine that we were writing songs, original songs. So they said, play us a tune, loves. So it was sort of an informal audition. And at their house, and we borrowed some of their wonderful electric guitars because we were both really electric guitar girls. And there was another young man there in the corner, far corner, Dave Mason, and he was with the band Traffic, and he also was a producer, so he had produced Family's first album. So here we are, informal audition in Family's house, playing our hearts out, singing. We both played electric guitar. We sang powerful harmonies. Janet was the lead singer, as I said. And I was also playing a mean blues harp. I could sort of like, whoa, and I loved that. And there was some flute. We both played keyboards because we had taken classical piano lessons, when we were younger. And so, but Family, the members of Family just were like, and
Blown
they
away.
immediately said, we want you to go on tour with them, with us, is what they said. And we want you to meet our manager as soon as possible. And wow. So that's how we got there, in answer to your question, Angel. And it was just.
But you said yes, and you showed up, and when the opportunity happened, and you were hanging out with the right people, that's for sure.
Yes. And I never wanted to be a groupie either. I had friends in high school. Come on, let's go to the hotel and stay in the lobby because the Small Faces are going to be there and I want to go upstairs with them. And I said, I don't want to. I wanted to hang out with rock icons, and not even icons, but rock musicians, just to talk shop with them. That was the most important thing to me, which is very different than being a groupie. So it was just, but I also, if you don't mind, I want to mention one other thing that's very important. And that is that the band Family asked us that same day, did we have a name for our duo? And Janet and I hadn't really had a name yet. We hadn't come up with one we wanted. So they said, well, your name will be Emily Muff. And Janet, your nickname will be M-E-M. And Kathy, your nickname will be Moo. And I thought, well, it's a little bit bovine-esque, but it'll be okay. So, and then soon Janet and I started calling each other Em and Moo, which was really funny anyway, which we've done for, years anyway. So that's how that started. And it was very lucky that Janet and I had not only been able to write original songs, but that we both had some performing experience. So we were able to open concerts for Family, and their concerts were sold out, over 2,000 capacity most nights. So it was a very, very big responsibility. And to be a rock duo is really a responsibility. It's only the two of you. So as I'm talking, remember that, keep that in mind, because it's not like being in a 4 or 5 piece rock band. We couldn't go and get a sip of water off of an amplifier or something while someone's doing a drum solo. There is no. So.
It's all you, all show. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I want to do like a mini shout out, but I know that we've had conversations about, look, it's been a really interesting road for women in music. And I remember having conversations. I don't know if it was conversation while I was reading your book about how you'd go to get into a show and the guys at the doors just thought you were roadies, you were like, in love with the band, and you're like, no, I am the band, I am playing. They're like, yeah, right, sister. So tell us a little bit about what it was like to be a woman in music back then, breaking that ground, like share.
It was a very tough road. It was during that period of time, it was 68 to 72. So it was very challenging. The example you gave, we were going to play our first gig at a small club in London, and the bouncer wouldn't let us in. And so we said, we're opening for family tonight. And he's made a sleazy remark about opening for the band back at their house, kind of thing. And luckily, family's vocalist, Roger Chapman, was there, and they are with us, pulled us in. And he said, try to teach us a little bit about, how to deal with that type of thing. And then we get in the club, and there's no separate dressing room for females. Interesting.
Right?
Angel's like,
Right.
So were you like dressing behind curtains or something? Like, what did you guys have to do?
We rigged up a makeshift chick dressing room from space in a closet that night. I mean, we had to be creative.
Well, we women have gotten we do makeshift dressing rooms, right? With beach towels, right? And some curtains, right? And make them up because we got to protect our girls. But yeah, if you're the first female duo, you think, I guess you've paved the way and had to create some of these opportunities for us and be clever. But isn't that, you must be opening for the band. How tacky.
Yeah, it was. It gets worse. Wait, I'll get you there, but it was also very heartwarming as well. When we first appeared on some of the first concerts, especially in the small clubs, we didn't play that many small clubs, but we would be dealing with cat calls from the crowd, and a lot of guys were looking sideways, trying to get a glimpse underneath our skirts and outfits and things like that. So we just wanted them to listen to our music. Come on, guys, listen to our music. But after we had been performing and touring for a while, that changed. Cat calls disappeared. People were coming to see us more than once to big concert halls throughout the UK. And they were we started getting some standing ovations and signing autographs. And so it was just different, and audiences seemed to really appreciate our music and what we were doing. And they were used to seeing two young women under 20, standing in front of this stage, plugged into the band family's huge megawatt stacks of amplifiers. And it was very, very loud, but it was wonderful sharing our original songs throughout, Britain. That was so meaningful.
At the beginning of really rock and roll, right? I mean, just as it's taking over because it came from Britain and over into the United States, and just being a part of that history, Kathy. I mean, this is so rich for you to be here and to be sharing. If somebody's thinking, I mean, to break into the music industry, I mean, back then you were the first and you paved the way, absolute trailblazer. But now if somebody wanted to, I mean, we had somebody this morning who opened up our summit, who has a really amazing talent. What advice would you give them?
Well, I think it's very different today. And now you're talking about a guy, so I would give him maybe a little different advice for women, for females trying to break in. I would just say to do the best you can in terms of, let's say for him, your vocals, continue to improve even more, never give up doing that. And your vocal delivery is very important, which I'm sure he knows. And also know your genre, because people would say to Janet and me, if they had not seen us, or if a company was trying to find out, what's your rock duo like? They assumed that we were a folk duo.
Right.
and we weren't, and they assumed we were a soft rock duo, and we weren't. So it was a little different. We were sort of in between in terms of we wrote our own songs, but we played electric guitars, and so we were rocking out quite a bit on bar chords and lead guitar and things like that too. So it was really amazing. I get a lot of people nowadays saying to me that they feel that our rock duo was a little bit like Foreigner and Journey, who were a little bit after us, who were around the same time. But we've had people say that they think that maybe some of the members of those bands came to watch us. I don't know if that's true, and I'm not going to go there. If they did, fine, but I mean, they're wonderful. So anyway.
Kathy, can I ask a question? So how old were you and Janet when you left and went to the UK for this British invasion? Like, how old were you? 16, 17?
That summer we were 18, and then we were 18 and a half when we moved back, kind of thing. So we were Janet's a little younger than me, so she was 18 when we started, and I was like just in my reached 19. We were just under 20, sort of thing, when we did this.
Just under 20. And so we look now at how, the under 20s and this millennial conversation that we're having. I got to ask, what were your parents like? Were they excited? Were they, you got to think, there's no WhatsApp to stay in touch. There's no Facebook Messenger to stay in touch. There's no, there's none of that. There's no FaceTime. There's none of that. Like, that's a big deal. What was it like parentally for your support?
Okay, that's a really important question. And we were talking, some of the speakers before me, about how it's wonderful that we're so transparent. So this will be very transparent, which is fine. My parents were extremely against me going there. In the 5 years that I was there, they never visited me once. That was hard to swallow. I'm just being open. Luckily, Janet's parents were so enthusiastic. They were still cautious, but they were supporting what their daughter wanted to do at that point in life. And so she shared some of her care package food with me occasionally, and I became, fairly close with her parents and thanked them years later. I phoned her mother years later, decades later, and just said, I want to thank you again for everything. And she was just tearing up, you could tell, and so was I. So my parents were staunch academians, and they just wanted me to follow a specific path. And at that point in time, I didn't want to, and I knew what I wanted. I was drawn to it. I had seen the Beatles at Shea Stadium when I was 16. I had met some members of the Rolling Stones. I was very gutsy at a club. I asked my brother to take me there, and he wanted me to clean up his room to do that, which I didn't do, but he let that go after meeting the Stones. But I was able to talk shop. Remember, I was talking about that with 3 members of the Rolling Stones, Keith, bassist Bill Wyman, and Brian Jones. And I talked with them about how much their guitar riffs moved me, heart and soul. And it was interesting because I was 16 at the time in New York before I went to Britain. And the 3 of them were looking at me kind of strangely, like, wow, you really want to know about our music, not about how we make great music in bed or something like that. Really. And so I did get a couple of autographs, but the bassist, especially Bill Wyman, was talking a little bit with us about how he likes designing and creating creative bass riffs, which that's talking shop. So that was just warmed my heart. It really did. Oh
my goodness. I have a friend of mine who absolutely just loves Rick Gretsch of Family. I'm hoping I'm saying his last name correctly. Apparently he's just an amazing, legendary bass player, who played Blind Faith, I'm getting here, and then became a member of Traffic. Anything to say for
Rick was a close friend of ours, our duo. In fact, he named his little kitten that he got. He loved Charlie Mingus, so he named his kitten Mingus. So that may be something your friend doesn't know. But Rick was probably one of the best bass players I've ever heard, ever. Kind of underrated a bit, but certainly the people in Blind Faith, which was the first super group in Britain, saw his potential and stole him from the band family. But unfortunately, Rick had issues with substance issues, let's say abuse types of issues. So he passed away fairly young. But he was just one of those musicians, one in a million, he had that. He could play, but it was natural for him.
Let's talk about a little bit of the scene, because I think people have a perceived scene of what it's like, and oh my gosh, you get to travel and you get to meet with these cool people, and so what were the up moments, like some of the most magical moments for you with music, which is kind of, and then what was the tough stuff?
The tough stuff, definitely. You're on the road most of the time when you're touring, and so you're, depending on if it's a superstar, you're not in an airplane like superstars. You're in a van, and sometimes it's loaded up in the back with equipment that if they do a short stop, it starts sliding towards your head. That's one example. The other is that you would stop and eat at what they have transport cafes along the motorways, and it was pretty greasy food, and the concerts would start at 9 p.m. sort of, and they'd finish at 11 or midnight or whatever, because we would open the concerts, have our set, and then family would open the concert, not open it, but start their set. And we'd get out of there and it'd be 2 a.m, and then they'd want to go to the pub or something. So it was kind of tough at times, but it was, I think what was really heartwarming, and I can put it in right here, was that the band family, would be double billed sometimes with other rock icons. So then our female rock duo would be opening the concert for family and these other rock icons. And I'm going to name drop, but this was exciting. So we opened concerts, or we billed on the same concerts as family, and Steppenwolf, Vandergraaf Generator, The Nice, The Move. It just goes on and on. The Nice, The Move, and Deep Purple. And we also opened for the American trio America, who did the hit song Horse with No Name. Right. And so we opened that show at the Roundhouse. It was a smaller venue. And afterward, and then they played their set, which we watched, of course, because I like Horse with No Name too, a lot. And so at the end of the whole evening, I was just chatting with a couple of the musicians from America, and they said they were very surprised to see that our music had a harder edge to it than their trio. So that was interesting feedback, sort of. Yeah. But another time, family was playing not a concert, but an outdoor festival, the Woburn Music Festival. Family did a great, phenomenal set. And right after family, so I was watching right near the stage, and the next person on was Jimi Hendrix. Mm. And that's the perks of being friends with family, knowing them, touring with them. And seeing Jimi Hendrix was really an inspiration. His whole trio was as good as Jimi Hendrix was. So it was just being a part of the scene, just there but being professional and never losing our cool. That's the key for the young man you were talking about, in terms of becoming in this music industry. It's so important. And we never lost our cool. We, in terms, I'm talking about in general, there was one moment when we did, which I would like to describe at some point. I think it's very important, but later or whatever.
In the movie. Angel, do you have a question for Kathy?
Well, yeah, I mean, just a million, right? Like,
yeah, I know.
What a fascinating story, right? Like the fact that we get you here and you're so open in sharing. Like what, like afterwards, like when you decide, when you left the tour, what kind of, like, where do you go from there? Like what kind of doors did that open for you after leaving the tour with family?
Sorry. Well, it did. It opened doors. One thing that can I just share that one thing first that happened to us? Because then this is actually.
Oh, yes.
Afterwards,
You said
your stage, you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. So we had been touring with family, and our manager, who was family's manager, Tony, he said that scouts had been sent to one particular concert that we were opening for. And then the next day he told us that they loved our music and they want us to sign a recording contract with them. And it was I'm not going to mention names, I just don't. And so I'll explain that too. But basically, we arrived at the record company, and our manager, Janet, and I were escorted into this music mogul's office, and it was one of the largest record companies in the world. And our manager just walked with us to, and then we were escorted in, and he quickly said, "I'll see you back in the lobby." And we thought, huh? That was weird, but we didn't want to miss an opportunity. So Janet and I were still professionals. So we went in and sat down, and the music executive mogul was seated at his desk, and there looked like important documents on his desk. And that, I was so excited. I was almost jumping, I just was so, oh my gosh. And he explained, this is just paraphrasing, that they loved our music, kind of thing. But then he started licking his lips in a suggestive manner and asked Janet and me what we would do for him. And that metaphorically slammed me in the solar plexus. Everything, my balloon was popped, everything just came crashing down. And it was just a mixture of anger, rage, and insult. And Janet and I had wonderful communication, not only musically, but non-verbally. So we looked at each other from the side, sort of, and we could read our mind, and we both got up at the same moment, and we stormed out of his office because we refused to compromise our principles and ourselves for a record deal in that way. And the worst part about it, besides not signing a record contract, was walking past the gold, I'm going to cry, walking past the records that were lining the, gold records lining the walls on our way out. It's like walking past your dreams. And Janet and I stormed past our manager and out to the sidewalk pavement, and he caught up with us, and we explained to him what happened, and he didn't believe us. Now, there are people today who still don't believe this, and our manager just basically implied that we must have misunderstood. Well, I was there, Janet was there, we were alone, the two of us in this office with this music mogul. I know what happened, and I know what happened. And I can sleep at night, ladies, I can sleep at night because I refused to compromise my principles in exchange for a recording contract. Now you were asking me, Deb, and Angel, was what happened after, you've been touring for a while, what other things opened up? But this is years later, but it's so heartwarming. I want to share it. In 2017, I was contacted email by a record company in Britain. Now I'm back in the States and for a long time. And his email just said, he wanted to talk with me and everything about a possible Emily Muff track, original track, being putting it in part of his 3 CD box set, Milk of the Tree, which honored women musicians. And one of them is Linda Ronstadt and things, Joan Baez. Yeah, wow, what an honor. And so we do have a track on there. And I just want to thank him even now for giving us that opportunity. It was just a wonderful honor to be on that 3 CD box set. And he gave us that opportunity with no strings attached, is what I'm saying. And that made it even sweeter and just such an honor. Thank you. Grapefruit Records, division of Cherry Red Records. Thank you for respecting us.
Oh my gosh.
Touche,
yes.
touche.
Yes.
That kind of makes you go to the house, right? So
Yes. Yes.
wow.
We've seen so many movies come out recently, right? In the last 5 years, movies, stories, hashtags, right? Around that. This is not an unusual situation, especially in Hollywood and in music. But so just being asked, right, to compromise is, and I know Deb has a story not that long ago where we were looking for an investor and it was a very similar response. And it's like, still really, but to be redeemed and to have that opportunity and to know like that doesn't define the industry, right? Just because there are people, there's bad people in everywhere, right? In every industry. And so to have that redemption is just, we just all want to just yay, there's hope for all of us, Kathy. And so kudos to you for paving the way. But that, I think we talked about boundaries even earlier, walking away from all those records and knowing what you were sacrificing, but that it was the right decision. It's tough. Like this adulting stuff is hard.
Yeah, it's
I knew I wanted to write a memoir pretty soon, after like a year after I returned to the States, and Janet got married, we had another gig booked. But one of our last concerts, I wanted to say, was with a band called Quintessence. And we had always had a dream of playing London's Royal Albert Hall. And that was their last concert for that year. And I must say, we did open that, and we also helped close the concert too. And it was one of the most magical and important moments, defining moments in my life, because so many rock icons have, Dylan, Cream, it just goes on and on and on. The Stones, the Beatles had performed there, and it's just following in these wonderful footsteps. But to play to over 5,000 audience of over 5,000 at the Royal Albert Hall in London as our final concert, it turned out to be interesting, very meaningful, and just have our songs soar up to past all the box seats and everything from the 1800s. And the architecture was stunning, and it was just one of the most beautiful moments in my life. So I wanted to write about that also in my memoir. One other thing quickly is just that the Me Too movement helped me have the courage. I just happened to be writing my memoir during that, when it appeared and started gaining momentum. And so I felt freer more safe sort of to share what happened, which I wanted to do because that I wanted to be transparent in my memoir, and I am. And I do, Deb, my fondest wish next is to have a movie made, a full-length feature film made of the true story of my female trailblazing rock duo, the first one in Britain, to share with the world and with people of all ages. They don't have to be musicians at all. It could be anyone in all walks of life, business, etc. So it's just such an honor. That's I feel, my true legacy, and that's why I want people to have the movie for a visual to be released worldwide.
Fantastic. I was actually going to ask you that, like, what is next? I mean, obviously, this has been, devoured on my couch late at night. This is the book. This is Kathy Bushnell's book. This is her memoir that she's talking about. And Kathy, I imagine that people do they get it from you? Do they get it from Amazon? Where did they get this beautiful book?
In actual fact, there is in different places, there's, I forget the name of it now. I contacted one in Canada, in Vancouver. It's a small company book. I forget the name of it. I have it written down. I can send it to you. But he definitely loved it. I just phoned him and told him, and he said anyone can get it in Vancouver from there as well. And there's also in Britain, there is a printing place up in sort of the Midlands or whatever, who also print that. So my book is available in Britain, the UK as well, Canada, and then there's Barnes and Noble and Amazon and other places, small independent ones in North Carolina too.
Okay. Well, look, if anyone is interested in getting the book, they can definitely put their email, and Kathy, you can reach out to them and they can reach out to you. And Kathy, please put your email if you so wish to have people reach out to you in the chat. And as we wrap up, spending this incredible time with you, and thank you so much. I mean, I think that's what's making the Stand Up, Speak Up, and Show Up really special, is that it's a place where people get to hear, but also people get to be heard. And being able to have someone like yourself, just, in the comforts of our own home, being able to hear, musical history or whatever it is that we're listening to, is just so impressed upon my heart. I'm just so grateful that you would share with us.
Thank you so much, right, for coming in and inspiring all of us right here today and telling your story. I mean, I can't imagine letting my young daughter go off with her friend to Britain to be in the rock scene and not want a chaperone or send somebody as a chaperone, but just so mature that you really were for that, for your age, right, to really want to know about the craft and the music. And now look at what you've done. Kathy, was there anything else you wanted to share with us that we make sure that we address while we have you? I just hate for you to walk away and go, you know what, I really wanted to share this other thing. Is there anything that you still have that we don't want to miss?
There's just so much in the memoir. Again, if people really want to know, that's a great place. And I wrote it for all ages too. So it has fairly short chapters. It hooks you in, I think, from the first couple of chapters. If somebody says, well, I don't really read, I said, well, just try the first couple of chapters, and they get back with me and say, okay, I've finished it now. But I wanted it just not to be cumbersome, to just sweep people along. So that's really my honor to in this life. I am getting older, and it's part of my real legacy. That's why it's in the title, and then the legacy of a 60s female rock duo, because it really is my legacy. And
Kathy, can I ask you a really odd question? Do you own a pair of go-go boots?
Do what? No, actually, I don't, because I don't, but I love them. And I always wanted a pair, especially because I went to the School of Performing Arts and I went for dance. I was a dance major. So I've always kind of, so if you want to send me, no, I'm just kidding. No.
What I'm like, what size do you wear? I would totally send you a pair of go-go boots. I can just totally picture you wearing go-go boots for some reason. Like I can just see it. I'm like, oh, does she have a pair?
Well, actually, that was more a little bit before me. Like in some of the TV shows, like let's have an example on YouTube. If you watch The Birds, the band The Birds, one of my favorites, and they're in my book too. Anyway, but there's a couple of TV shows that they were on, and they have go-go dancers dancing, and I love it. I just watch that sometimes to watch them dance. So, but that was when they first appeared on the scene, so it might have been 64.
Okay. Okay.
So
Sorry, I got my 60s genre.
I love them.
Right. I could just picture you in a pair. So I love that.